I'm really excited to have two fabulous guests. Me and Culty are excited to have Jonny and Empathly. So welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome to the show. Yes.
Yeah, thanks. You guys are doing awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we've kind of covered in our past episodes why me and Culty have kind of taken a step back from the ExJW community. And we know, Jonny, we've noticed you've kind of been MIA and you've kind of taken a step back from the ExJW community.
Yeah, it only took me January 22nd to whenever. So yeah, I was good for a couple of months, and then it was like,
wow.
Yeah, you were kind of making your face known, and then all of a sudden, you kind of disappeared.
Yeah, I was trying to contribute in whatever way I could. Like it led me to Lily and you guys and to Monica and stuff. So there was I wanted to do my part and everything, but you start to realize that, like most things, jumping into something is probably a foible of mine. So taking that step back was necessary.
I think we've all been guilty of that, right? You guys jumping into something too quickly and then having
sure. Giving your phone number out, and I did the same thing.
Yeah, completely ridiculous of me to do that. Like, what the hell was I thinking?
I did the same thing.
When you say giving your phone number out, you mean not in general, but to certain people.
Sure.
Yeah, well, we're all trusting these people that have come into our community that seem to be wanting to get everyone's information and gather,
put it into a database, which is, I think, is very weird. I'm sorry, I'm calling it. It's weird.
Think about this. Besides being weird, is that database secure? Because it's on a website, and people are.
No, it's 100% not secure. No, it's not. It's impossible for it to be secure. But as far as even the semblance of some security, that was never even mentioned. That's why. I should have told this to you personally, Michelle, the other day, but I told Lily I was going to tell you thank you for mentioning that part about my son, because that was another mistake of mine, just giving background information and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily recall giving them my son's birthday, which is kind of odd, but I'll just chalk it up to, I guess, me doing it or something. But
and how they notice it. Like, if you don't remember, it was almost something maybe you said in passing and then they wrote it down. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's what it has to be, because my son's name is Jackson and not Jack. And they had it up there as Jack, which is like a minor whatever thing. But it's still like no one was asked permission. Oh, you're a March baby? So Joe was March 1st or 2nd, whichever. And Fran is the 2nd or the 1st, whichever it is. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like I'm on March 10th.
So basically they were paying attention.
It was that innocent thing. And
they were paying attention and they noted it.
Yeah. And see,
they're sitting there taking notes, just like, elders or elders' wives or COs or DOs would have back in the day.
So it bothered me, and I wanted to reach out to you because I figured you're not watching Joe and Fran's show. I figure you probably weren't aware, and I was, as your friend, I just was looking out for you, and I was like, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want my kids' information and birthdays up there on the screen, So
and I totally appreciate it, because it's just like there's no. It's like I was talking with Lily the other day. It's like there's only a few options here with those two. They're in their 70s and they're old enough to extrapolate certain things about what they're doing. So they're either stupid, working for the Watchtower, or somewhere in between.
Whenever I watched a video of them, because when you mention them, I'm not subscribed to them. I don't really follow them. I don't know. I didn't quite understand. And so I watched an interview that was done, it says a couple of years ago, by a woman named Wendi. Seemed very nice. Mm-hmm. And I got from that video that he was a lot smarter.
He was being very James Bond about things and very, putting on smiles.
He was making sure it was known how he was able to gather the type of machine that Watchtower was, and how brilliant they were, and how smart they were in their process. And he also noted that they were a product of the government. And he said he used the term affiliate marketing. She asked him, what was it? First, she said, Fran, what was it that got you into Watchtower since you came in as adults? She said, the love bombing. When she asked Joe, he said, the affiliate marketing program. The way that they love bomb you and they work you along to create you as a product for their use. And those are my words that I added there. And then at the end, they explained it again, the same thing. He talked about multi-level marketing. He talked about the genius of Watchtower, I think is how he said it.
See Wendy's face change when he said that. Did you see that part, Lily?
Yeah. It was like he was proud of Watchtower's ability to get us all in, and keep us all in for so long doing their bidding. And then what I noticed, because I've very little experience with watching them, he's a carbon copy of Watchtower now. He's marketing to people, the love bombing, the hitting all the angles of what we miss from being in a community organization like that. Essentially using what I call their bite model, or using their structure. And what happens is, because in my opinion, what happens is we're all programmed to think a certain way from our upbringings. And sometimes our upbringings were, in my case, 40 years of being in the religion. It's familiar to trust your brothers and sisters, to trust the leader figure. And he has definitely made himself the leader figure.
Yeah, he's taken that on.
Yeah.
And also getting along. He pushes all of us must get along, because he scolded Culty when he called her on the phone that one day, telling her she must behave in the chat. It was like she was getting a call from an elder.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's playing,
Yeah,
I'm saying
and
he's
then
playing that part to a T.
Yes, and then they both went on they felt the need to go on other programs to tell other people how you're supposed to behave in the chat. That's very
Yeah.
Watchtower. I mean,
It
we
was
made that
crazy.
point in one of our podcasts.
Yeah, so I'm agreeing with you. What you're seeing is on point.
Yeah. And I just surmised a lot of these things just from watching just the one interview, the type of personality. And I understood, because really the first time I ever really saw them was that really, I want to call it scary, a video where Ruby was describing her lack of ability to want to have any friends, and she was, in my opinion, telling more than she should have in terms about her personality.
The toxic family versus sacred friendships episode that we covered in episode 2.
I wasn't expecting that when I turned that on, and it was a little bit before she started talking. I was like, oh my God, what am I hearing? I mean, it blew me away. It blew me away. All the things that she was saying. And I was listening to because I don't know these two people. I'm listening to what Fran and what Joe was saying. I thought Fran actually made a few good points. I didn't necessarily see any major good points that Joe made, because, she is, unfortunately, in my opinion, a byproduct of her upbringing and Watchtower. I mean, she's completely pushed herself from allowing herself to trust anyone. They teach you when you're out of Watchtower, don't trust anybody. And she's also not allowing herself to attach to anyone emotionally. They teach you so many of these things. And it's very disturbing.
Well, yeah, they teach you to be isolated too.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%. Your whole life. Mm-hmm. Your whole life, they purposely isolate you.
Well, that's why it's so, people are so vulnerable when they come out, and now you're an ExJW, and you leech on to people that show you that bit of love, and Yeah, and you just automatically trust.
Yes. And I find it with your, to go on with your point about him not really giving the greatest advice. I find it interesting that allegedly he has some kind of therapy background.
Oh
Allegedly.
yeah,
I don't know
that
if
was
it,
interesting.
Yeah. I
but
heard that in that interview.
but the best advice he gave, and I say best in quotes, was the Winnie the Pooh phrase, "A friend in need is a friend indeed," right? And then he tells everyone that the time you'll know your friends is when you're
When you're
dead.
dead.
Right.
What school did he go to? Please tell me. Avoid it.
Yeah, and you know, then they had that whole episode about therapists, and he never said a word that he was actually a therapist at a school.
Yeah. We found that out through various other interviews he did. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard on that one interview, a college that it was
Yeah.
through therapy through college. So I think that's where they come from, like their energy of feeling like, in creating that ongoing therapy environment for people.
Right.
You know, there's reasons why there are good therapists and bad therapists. Some therapists, they are really interacting with a person and not necessarily just letting people talk. And there are also some therapists most therapists are smart enough to ascertain whether or not if something is a safe environment for the people that they're talking to, which is not something that I have seen that it's a safe environment. If anything, it doesn't feel like it's a safe environment.
And that's where Jonny comes in. I really want him to share his experience, like from the beginning. Like, how did you come back into the ExJW community? Like, what made you come back, and how did it all start, Jonny?
At the end of last year, I was, kind of at a standstill in a lot of ways, and over the years I've looked into it, but never been a part of any XJW stuff. Looking into it as far as like I would run through the list of names, from back then, and do the whole Facebook searching thing and see, like what happened to Kellen or whoever from back in the day. And I went to look for some more resources, and Reddit's got so many subreddits that I typed in XJW Reddit, and XJW Reddit, clicked on that, and just a randomly unrandom post I clicked on, and it was like, anybody that wants to get hooked up with other XJWs in their area, just contact Joe and Fran Guerino with their phone number just right on the webpage. So that's what I did. And in my own excitement to, that's where I messed up, was in my excitement to get tapped into that. I felt, and in the end, I was being led there by the universe. It's a whole different discussion, obviously. So no matter what, it's still a meant to be thing. That's the funny part about all of this. But
well, yeah, that's how we met. So yes,
right, exactly. So the means justify the ends, or whatever they say in the end, because it's better to know than not know, in my opinion. That's up to everybody's own choosing.
I agree with that.
But I jumped in with both feet, so to speak, sort of. It was just sort of, and it was like it wasn't necessarily like some. Well, yeah, it was love bombing. See, that's what I gotta remember, because they're your instant adopted parents is how it's put,
Or
Oh,
grandparents.
you're, like they just, and we've all met those cool people. I probably had, a dozen grandmas over the years, just those cool people that you meet, but this wasn't that.
You gave them
Sure.
your number,
Okay.
and then didn't they kind of assign you? This is how, when you described this to me, it reminded me of, they kind of treated you like a XJW therapist. And what I mean by that is they assigned other XJWs that might have had other more underlying issues. I want to be careful how I'm saying this. And they felt like you could talk to these other XJWs and be an encouragement to them, help them out. But it almost sounded like you were like a mini therapist to the people they
it's
were
like all of a
sending
sudden
your
I had
way.
Right. Like all of a sudden I had a caseload. I'm so hard to get, if you will, oh, I gotcha. And I just walked right into the crocodile infested waters to where, it was like, well, the angle is because I've been out for 27 years.
You weren't
So-
used to the ex community energy, really.
No, January 22nd of this year is the very first time I have ever been in contact with any ExJW since I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And I've looked a bunch of people up over the years, stuff like that. I've gotten a hold of a bunch of people, but a bunch of people don't want to talk, and it doesn't have nothing to do with me. They're messed up or just don't want to have any. They're smarter than I was at that point, and no, I don't have anything to do with any of it.
Yeah, and that's one thing you and I have in common is I left when I was 18 too, and I think Culty kind of left earlier, wasn't all in either, because you never was
I
baptized.
wasn't all in.
either.
I was never baptized. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was never
But I went
baptized.
back and
Yeah.
forth because of they get you with the Armageddon thing. I had
Yes.
Armageddon nightmares forever. Yeah.
Well, I went back and forth,
Yeah.
not because of Armageddon, but because I was just trying to make my mom and dad happy. Or we would go and I'd go to the assembly one day if my husband was out of town doing work or something, and I would go and spend time. I was like, oh, okay, we'll go to the assembly. It was never, I'm back in, you know what I'm saying? It was just to be with my family. But the thing that I have in common with Jonny is that when I left, I pretty much at 18, I was out. I was living the worldly life and all that. So I was out, and it wasn't until I want to say a year and a half ago, I started looking into the ExJW community. And that's how I started finding Ruby. And I got involved, and I got really involved at that point.
Right,
For
exactly
me,
the same
yes.
thing for me. Except it was just in January, not a year and a half ago. Exactly
Yes.
the same thing.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I can be a help to people, because
Yes.
their deal is, what I noticed is, and they even follow the JW thing to where they never hooked me up contact-wise with any female, which I'm not saying one way or the other. It's just kind of like a side point.
That's interesting.
It was always either, because I was raised in Cali, it was always either somebody close to me physically, like here in Ohio, like the one cat I still talk to her once in a while, which I'm cool with doing, up in Michigan, Cold Bolt, I think is his name on the screens, and a couple of cats out in Cali. So it was like, okay, like no problem, and they would like send a name with like the biography, like a mini biography of the person.
The profile.
Yeah, did you call it baseball stats? You called it baseball stats one time. There was like the baseball stats of everyone. You know what I mean? They had your baseball stats.
The back of the baseball card. You
Yes,
picture
yes.
and then just basic facts. Height, weight, date. And in hindsight, there really wasn't too much of a point. I guess the point is that a lot of other people need help since they've left, and that's not me. But I offered, being gone for being out of it for so long, for almost 30 years now.
But did you expect that when you handed your number out? Did you expect to be help for therapy, or did you expect to just meet other friends that were ExJWs?
Yeah, the latter, totally. No, it was just like, oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Probably just like you, like you know what, like this, it doesn't bother me, but every few years I think about it or whatever. Like, what happened to this person or that person? Well, screw it. I'll try to go to the source and see if there's some kind of like a database, which there is obviously, but some kind of a forum, for this. And there was, and of course I didn't have any problem giving them my phone number, because in my rush to whatever, they gave me their phone number. Their phone number is like public, you know what I mean? It's like literally like on the internet itself.
Oh yeah, it's
and
on the stream every
no
time.
big deal. Like, how can this little old couple, do any harm? And then before I knew it, it wasn't just getting hooked up with other people of similar age or location or interests. It was, oh hey, do you mind talking to this guy? He's really angry about this or that. Yeah, sure. I'll see if I can help. I can totally sum up all kinds of stuff for people, like give people the Cliff Notes version of what to expect, what I went through or whatever, because, no matter the age, some people have only been out for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 7 years. For me, it was like I figured that I could leapfrog people. But then it just started getting, like more and more. And that's where like literally, like all of a sudden, like I joked to myself, like, damn, like, this is like my part-time job all of a sudden. Like, is there a way to get paid to do this shit? Like,
Wow.
like I'm spending all the time.
I can't believe they just kept on giving your number out to like multiple people. They tried to give me someone. They didn't pass her off as someone that would need help or anything. They just said, "Oh yeah, I think this person would be good for you." See, I was like, "Yeah, I'll think about it." I took the lady's number, but then I was like, then they followed up with me and asked me if I was, if I had contacted her, and I said, "No, you know
Yeah, they
what?
start bugging
I'm going to change my
immediately about
mind."
it.
So they start
Yeah,
bugging
they
you,
start,
don't they? That's
yeah,
the
they start
MO.
bugging immediately about it. Like, they don't even let
So,
it breathe for a second. Like, did you get that
Mhm.
number? Did you call yet? And it's like, it's been 2 days. Like, I kind of sort of have some other shit going on. Like, I don't know, life. But like Colty was saying, like, well, how many and stuff like that are like, like one after the other. So the one guy was no problem. Other guy was no problem. In total, it was almost 10 people, right? But once again, like 90% of that was just, and I believe it when that's why I'm erring on the side of them being stupid, at least with this particular thing, that it wasn't presented in a negative way. It was just, oh, hey, here's other dudes your age that have similar either age, location, or interest, whether it be Cali here or the age group. Cool, no problem. Then here comes, it's all staged, and that's why it's either stupid or you guys are plotting. There's not many options here. It's like, if I was to sit them both down and dress them down verbally and be like, look, tell me right now that you're just dumb as all get out. I'll believe that because that's what you're doing. But anything else, I'm going right off the cliff to the other side. So it was all fine and dandy with just like regular people, for lack of a better word. And then they hit me up and they said, hey, there's this guy up in Illinois. His name is Mark. Once again, the baseball card information, but that he was super angry. That he had left the cult. He was super angry at his parents. Blah blah blah. So just like Colty was saying, it was like they gave me his number, and whatever time it was that day or whatever, I didn't call the guy or anything. And like 2 days later, I get a call from a number, and I don't put 2 and 2 together because I didn't put his name, this Mark guy's name, into my phone right then. It was just on my notepad. And I get a call from a number, and I don't pick it up. Just wasn't in my wheelhouse at that moment. Like, I don't know anybody from Naples, Illinois. Like, whatever. I'll deal with that later. If they leave a voicemail, it's important enough. You know what I mean? It's probably that scam likely BS. And then I, just like we were saying a minute ago, I immediately get not immediately, but within that day or the next day, they're calling again. Like, well, did you talk to Mark? Did you call up Mark? Well, no, not yet. So now I put him in my phone and realize that it's that number. So I'm like, oh, well, when he calls again, he called like 2 more times from like a Wednesday till the Sunday. And I was like, damn, this guy, he really needs help, but I didn't have the time to give him. I didn't have, because I won't multitask. Like, forget like regular mom multitasking and stuff like that, but undivided phone attention.
Yeah, you want to give undivided attention. That's good.
100%.
Yeah.
So now it's Sunday night and I can give him my undivided attention. So I sent him a text, earlier that day, like, hey, hey man, this is Jonny. I'm sure you've heard about me from Joe and Fran. I think you may have called the other day, blah, blah, blah. If it's cool with you, I'll call you at 9 o'clock. Sure, that'd be great, Jonny. Boom. Okay, cool. 9 o'clock, I call. And this is where something is rotten in Denmark, because what has to be known, which is obvious, is that anything that I told them about my baseball card information, they're telling everybody else.
Right.
Just like I know other people's baseball card information that I was asked to contact. Guy in California, younger kid up there in Michigan, or in this case, this guy Mark in Illinois. And that plays into it because I had him in my phone because it was like my cliff notes, not having talked to him before, was Mark ExJW anger. Like, that's how I have everything in my phone with anybody that I know. It's a description of them if I don't know them well, and then that changes, especially with all these new phone calls. It was person X in California, cool guy, NP, no problem, like no problem with the dude. Some other guy was apparently like really smart, and he was some other guy, Eric or whatever his name was, smart. Like
Well,
just
yeah,
a
you
brief
had to
bio.
do that to keep a
Yeah,
track of all the people they were sending you. You had to.
right. Because all of a sudden I had like a
Yeah.
half a dozen, 6, 7, 8, 9
Yeah.
in there, and so I start talking to this guy, and immediately it's obvious that something isn't right, because he immediately started to mirror. He was using the mirroring effect, where the first thing that he did was allude to him being a year older than me, that he was 45. As in, he didn't say that he was 45, but he knew that I was 44. Oh yeah, Joe and Fran, tell me how old you are. I'm about a year older than that. Wrong. So he starts using this mirroring effect, as in he left when he was 15 like I did. He fully was out at 17 when everybody's left him alone. Wasn't raised in like I wasn't raised in, was brought in at 5 like I was brought in at 5. And I was sitting there going, like 25 years ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, we have so much in common. These days, I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Something's up.
And he starts telling me his story. He goes, yeah, I left when I was 17, but I lived with my, who are all JWs, apparently. This all called just be a total lie. That's like the whole point to all of this, but whatever. Is he left when he was 17, growing up in a JW household, obviously, and his whole family is still in the JWs. He left when he was 17, but lived with them. His quote was well into his 30s. And as a dude that left the house at 15, there's 1.1% of dudes that I've ever met. I know one of them right now who's like 30 years old, moved back in with his parents, almost has his doctorate, has his own small business. Point being, there's only like 0.01% of dudes that are living with their parents well into their 30s that it's supposed to be happening. Otherwise, they're straight out freaks in some way.
Yes.
Weirdos, losers in their basement. Something's wrong with a guy that doesn't want to get out the house. The only time that doesn't apply is with other cultures that I've known or gals that I've dated, where like the brothers will stay in the house like into their 30s so they can buy a house. It's a cultural thing, and they're also saving to buy a home with their wife.
Yes.
Instead of just get out and start renting and getting leases on cars and blowing money. It's the American way is actually really messed up with its consumerism.
It is.
Yes.
So I was like, red flag, like what's up with that? But I continue. He tells me some stuff at the very beginning. What that is doesn't matter, not because it's juicy info or anything, but just like some minor detail. And then a half an hour later, he said something totally different. Not something that he was mistaken about, but he was now lying to my face. Like he was making shit up. And I'm listening to him. Well, now as soon as he lied to me, I go to my desk to get a piece of paper and I fire up my laptop. Because I'm like, all right, now I'm going to start writing down what this guy's saying. But he starts, I'm like, all right, man. So like, what are you angry about? Joe and Fran said that like, you're having a hard time with the anger. And he says that, this is going to get wacky. This is going to get dark and wacky. Just so you guys know. He starts going into why he's angry with his parents, and he's angry with his mother and stepfather. And by the way, this whole entire time, this guy's 58 years old, which I find out later. He's not 45.
Wow.
Like this is all crazy. He starts telling me what the problem is. And I'm like, so what? Like, what's the deal? He's like, well, mind you, he's at this point, he said that he's been out since he's 17. So it's like, what the hell's the problem with the following? He says, oh my, I'm so mad because everybody thinks that I'm some kind of a freak in the congregation. So at this point, since he lied to me, now I'm not his buddy anymore. Now I'm like on investigative journalist shit. I've got my notepad, my Sharpie. Now I've got this, I've got that. Now I'm writing down what he's saying like in shorthand. And I've got the laptop fired up and I haven't gone to that yet. And he says that his stepfather found a script in his desk for a movie that this guy was apparently writing. And he didn't go into the details of what it was, that this script that he was writing, that, so like, picture like we all grew up with the locked down home, the lockdown JW home. Like I'm busy hiding cassettes like in places in the house and like down the street to listen to cool music. And in this case, he's writing some movie and he's hidden in his desk the way that he described it. And apparently this script, his brother finds it and brings it to his stepdad. His stepdad's like an elder in the congregation. His brother's like a ministerial servant. And goes, hey, look at what Mark's writing about. And it was apparently something to do with gay, some kind of an X-rated movie script that he was writing. And this guy that I'm talking about, he would repeat things constantly. He was manic as all get out. And I've never dealt with anybody like this, like over the phone. I have with some people in real life, but they were like friends, and it definitely wasn't on this kind of shit. It was just more like trying to calm your buddy down, or like a breakup that somebody's taken wrong, normal type stuff where people get manic. But he would, and Johnny, so like, it's going to be irritating here for 30 seconds, so I'm just going to verbatim how he would do things. He'd be like, Johnny, you know what happened, Johnny, you know what happened is Johnny, I gotta ask you. I think I'm in some kind of trouble here, Johnny, because I don't know what to tell them, because it's not like that, Johnny. They said that they found a script in my desk, and then they asked me about it, and my stepfather, Johnny, he was like, Johnny, he was like, what is this? Some kind of like a gay porn or something like that? He's like, Johnny, that was nothing like that. It was nothing like that. It was nothing like that, Johnny. Do you believe me? Johnny? It was nothing like that. And I'm just sitting here going, what in the have I gotten myself into? Having great conversation with other people like the past like month at this point.
Wow.
Like just regular, constructive, good stuff. No big deal. And then bam, this. He's one of the, like I like to speak plainly. He's one of these delusional losers, psycho losers that thinks he's going to make it in Hollywood or be like the next great scriptwriter or some shit. But this is far worse. Sure. And he's probably, but then it gets crazier. So he goes, you know what they were doing, Johnny? You know what they were doing? They were accusing me of writing, and this was the thing that he told me that he lied about a half an hour later. He goes, you know what they were accusing me of, Johnny? They were accusing me of writing disturbing letters to Goldie Hawn, to Kurt Russell, and to Madonna and Sean Penn. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh no! Now I know exactly who the hell I. So I'm just writing down furiously, and I know his full name. So now I'm over here on the laptop too, like, okay, as he's talking to me. Now I see his picture, I see his stuff, and it was a two-part thing. This is the first part. He literally was describing, the guy's so nuts and so not realizing how he comes across self-awareness, that every single thing that he was being accused of by his family was so detailed that it was obviously true. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just suddenly get accused of writing letters to those four people. And what's creepy about that is you guys already know, because you guys know pop culture like all of us Americans do. Madonna and Sean Penn, that was like the 90s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, like, I know what the plastic box tells me, they've been together forever, blah, 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 blah. But they're not necessarily current. Like, you ain't heard the name Goldie Hawn in forever.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is like at least a couple of decades of what's it called? We're obsessive fan. That's what it is. Johnny, they told me that I was the next Mark David Chapman. They told me that I was going to pull a Mark David Chapman. And I'm sitting there going, Mark David Chapman? Oh, that's the guy that freaking shot John Lennon in the head. The obsessed fan.
Wow.
Half an hour. So he goes, Johnny, there was no letters. I started counting. He would say everything at the end 6 times, no matter what. 6 times. I think one time he did it 5. I was sitting there, I had like the tally mark, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was sitting there keeping track. Johnny, there was no letters. And he goes off on this diatribe about why there was no letters, why there was no script, why they're all mistaken, and how he's worried, even though he's been out for decades now, even at 45, that they're going to turn this over to the congregation to make a fool out of him. And half an hour later, he admits that there was letters, that he was writing angry letters to Goldie Hawn and Madonna as far as why they were with these other two people. These are people that he's never met. This is like this is like ground
Somebody
level
seriously mentally
psycho
ill.
stalker in your bushes and at midnight
Yes.
type,
Yeah.
And so as he's doing this stuff, I'm looking him up online, and one of his Facebook profiles, he goes by Mark Hahn. I mean, can you imagine? He's one of those nuts where he took her last name and made it his screen profile last name. He hasn't said like, I'm outside of somebody's house and I'm ready to shoot them or anything that needs to be taken action. I'm just like enamored by this now. I'm like, wow, like I've had so much cool experiences in life and gotten out there at such an early age. Like here's my first, like, like a Nat Geo photographer, like, wow, look at this extinct weirdo I've only heard about. Wow. Let me start
A psycho nut.
right.
Yeah, like, wow.
Ugh.
So at this point, it's only been about a half an hour. And I'm like, okay, now that you've lied to me and now that you've recanted on that lie, or not even recanted, I mean, but just forgotten that you lied to me half an hour ago. Now I'm going to keep you on the phone. Yeah, like, I don't know why they'd be, accusing you of that, man. If you didn't do it, then, there shouldn't be a problem. Like, that's kind of odd.
It's like the cop in the interrogation room where you're like, oh,
Right.
yeah, okay, you're going to keep spilling, keep spilling. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm known to be the master of that, and especially in real life among people that I've known. I have detailed files. He's ratting himself out and doesn't know it. It's like, this is like, I guess, how the psycho mind works. We start getting back to more normal shit, if that's even possible at this point. Just more background stuff, and then regular type questions come up. He's like, so do you have a girlfriend? And it's like, I don't, but even if I did, I wouldn't have told him. But I was like, no, I don't.
No.
Oh, you got any kids? No, Oh, you got any kids? No. And, he didn't say anything about that. So I don't think Joe and Fran told him anything like that deep, or else he would have been like, oh, I thought Joe and Fran said you had a son. But no, and he's like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend either and stuff like that. And then he goes, and then everything shifts from that PG insanity right into rated X territory. Johnny, let me ask you something. Can I ask you something? Do you mind if I ask you something? Let me ask you something, Johnny. And I'm like,
Don't
what?
drive me nuts.
Oh yeah, it was like I had to like put the phone down like for a while, like away from me. Like I went and like made a sandwich and stuff, and he was still rattling on. Like I never do that with real people. I give him my undivided attention. I was like, man, this guy's not going to know, so I'm gone for 2 minutes. And he's trying to like work up to something. You could tell that he's trying to work up to something. And he's like, well, let me ask you a question, Johnny. Blah 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 blah, over and over. He goes, and we're on the discussion of girlfriends. How young is too young?
Oh boy.
And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, what do you think? As far as dating girls, how young is too young? And at this point, I'm probably about that time. It's a bit convoluted because I'm on the laptop. He's on the speakerphone here like you guys are, and I've got my paper over here to my left. And now I know that he's 58 years old. But I'm going on his word that he's 45, or his alluding to that he's a year older than me. So I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I said, you're around my age. I said, what do you mean? And even though I should have known better, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, even if I'm, just wanting to know more information that, might be talking about a 25-year-old gal, 20, 21. Let's just go for 21. At least you're going to have a beer with her or something that, he's going to go to places I don't want him to go, but maybe it's like savable. And like, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. So I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I said, you interested in a gal that's like a bit younger than you? Somebody might have a problem with it. And he was like, well, no, he's like, no, in particular, I just kind of mean in general. And I said, here's what I'll do. I said, I'll throw it on me. I said, I'm 44. I said, it would take a super mature woman from a crazy, just the right amount of scenario steps for me at 44 to even want to give like an early 30s gal like the time of day. That's like, so I throw it on me and I'm like, well, for me, it would take a special this and that and the other thing for it to be a gal, 10 years or a little bit more. And I know that age is an illusion, also the kind of, but with this kind of stuff, we all know, like at a certain age level, there's nothing for nobody to talk about.
Right.
You know, like if you're a 70-year-old dude who's a billionaire and ugly as shit, and you've got a supermodel on your arm, we all know what's up with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
If you're Leonardo DiCaprio and you're 50 years old dating 19 years old, we know what that's about.
Yes.
To me, it's weird, but whatever. Let me ask you, Johnny, do you think it's okay to be giving advice to younger gals about life, about this or that, or the other thing? And I was like, well, how young are we talking? He's like, I'm like, over 18. He's like, well, yeah, over 18, but maybe younger than 18, you know, trying to play it off like one of these camp counselors or one of these youth pastors or whatever, that he's just looking out. And obviously he has somebody in mind. He's not just pulling this out of the ether. That, you know, to give advice, not being an older brother or sister type, but hyper focused on younger females. And I'm like, well, I said, first of all, any gal that is underage, I said, I wouldn't recommend talking to them at all if they're not your family, and especially not giving them advice. I said, that's what their parents are for.
Yeah.
Well, what if they don't really have that? I said, well, then they have to find somebody else to talk to. I said, look at today's climate, man. I said, you know, we weren't alive 200 years ago. It's probably the same thing then, but that's just not wise, bro. You know, like, don't even, if you don't want to die in an airplane crash, don't ever board one. You know what I mean? Like, why would you? But now I'm getting the sinking feeling, because now he's going to a place, I think I know where he's going, and he put it into 4-wheel drive and went right there. But I kind of went like a step further with him, that not only is that not appropriate, but that, you know, we already have enough problem in the world with pets. And he's like, what do you think about that? What do you think about guys that do that? I said, I think that they should be taken outside and shot. I said, flat out. I said, if that doesn't happen, I said, you do know that guys that go to prison for that stuff get extorted, raped, beat, and killed, right? And so he establishes that, and he agrees with me. He's like using another psychological, what he thinks is a trick to, oh yeah, no, totally agree with you. So I'm already looking him up as this is going on, and his Facebook profile is him. His Facebook profile photo is him at a Hooters, I believe, for a meet and greet with Miss Teen Illinois.
Wow.
You know, and he's one of those dudes to where he's 58 and he has an extreme baby face that's kept constantly shaved. And I'm looking him up and I see his photo and his hair is black. And I'm like, man, that hair is ultra black. But once again, no big deal about guys dyeing their hair. That's not for me, but he's trying to present himself as way younger.
Yeah.
And he takes those weird photos. Every girl that he's in a photo with, it's weird. He's got that weird ass body language. Like they're kind of like leaned away from him. Like you guys would know way better than me. Like pretend that in between my hands is the girl's shoulder. So like I'll obviously be like out of frame, and he does this like weird lean in thing where he's like almost touchy. He's got like hover hands like over their shoulders each time. Like he's like, it reminded me of the dudes that kill deer and take a shot with it. That's exactly what, total creep.
Creepy, yeah.
So I'm looking this all up as he's talking about this. I'm like, oh, Miss Tina Illinois, like what the? Now, like I'm looking him up. I know where he lives. I know where his parents live. I know everything that I could possibly know publicly about this guy as I'm talking to him. Then he, tipping off of the pedo thing, he starts to, and this is like the final chapter of it, he starts to paint these two scenarios.
Oh boy.
Well, first he paints an example. And since I already know that he's lying about all kinds of shit, and that, especially like the letter thing, that he's just describing exactly what he did. And the whole entire conversation, he's told me about different places that he's lived, including out in LA. Like he spent time in Los Angeles, California. I confirmed this. He had at least 3 different addresses in California. What he was really doing is either trying to like get into or write porn or something like that. Because one of the photos on his Facebook was in Vegas, and I blew up the background, and he was at the awards, the adult video awards, like the Oscars for porn. So he's at one of these awards, taking photos with like ex-playmates and porn chicks and shit like that. And so it starts going down the slide, and then he paints this scenario. He goes, well, yeah, he goes, I guess you're right. He's like, you can't really be getting into that stuff. You can't really be talking to underage gals and stuff like that, trying to give them advice and stuff like that. I said, yeah, dude, like, why would you even, like, hey man, like being his buddy, like, you don't want to do that, bro. And, so then he says, yeah, my, things got really crazy for my friend Roger, and I'm like, who's Roger? And he's talking about himself.
Roger.
Yeah, Roger. I see you.
Can I prove that he was talking about himself? No, because every single state that he mentioned that I was writing down, I was looking up. I had like 10 tabs open at this time, including all the sex offender registries, and I'm typing down. And that's the other thing, is that he goes by like 3 or 4 different names on the internet, and not
that's not suspicious.
No, and not like culty talk or empath lady type stuff, but like Mark Taft, Marcus Taft, spelled 2 different ways. Mark Hahn, Marcus Christensen with a K. Like, no regular person does that weird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my friend Roger in Texas. And he's like, whoa. And like, he kept slipping up. Like, he would say what he meant to say and then kind of realize, even in the fog of his nuttiness, that he was slipping up, if you will, with keeping his story straight. So he's like my friend Roger. Well, he wasn't my friend. He was more of an acquaintance. Well, in the end, I really did end up liking the guy. And I was like, why? What happened with Roger? And he's like, well, Roger, he must have pissed somebody off because he was dating this gal, and the gal had a 5-year-old son. And yeah. And Roger got arrested because the stepmother found nude photos of the boy on the phone. And he goes, but I don't think that Roger had anything to do with that. I think that his girlfriend set him up like that. And I'm sitting there going, you're talking about yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't describe how I know that, but it's just instinct mixed with, if you guys were there, you would say, like, wait a minute, whoa, right?
Yeah.
And he's asking me if he thinks that that's possible, as in for somebody to do that, as in for somebody.
Fishing. He's fishing for your response.
He's trying, and I've met other dudes like this in my life on different where they will, like you're saying, they want to see where you're at. If they can get you a little bit, then they can go up. Yes. Like, oh, do you watch porn?
They're testing your boundaries.
Yes.
They're testing your boundaries. They're reading you to test your boundaries.
But he still keeps going. So he paints that crazy scenario about Roger. And the dumb part about it is that he was this part is like, you just got to trust me on this part, because it's very particular. At this point, I know where he lives. And he's out of his own mouth at least, he's an Uber driver, but he lives by himself. I've seen the property title, the tax man's forms and shit. He lives in a $420,000 2-story condo. Like, I've been on Zillow, I've been inside of his place. It's this big vaulted ceiling place. And I already know this. And he's describing Roger. And as he's talking on the phone, you can tell that he's walking around and he's telling me Roger's story. And as he's telling me that Roger lives in a beautiful 2-story or a 2-story condo with vaulted ceilings, as he's saying that, I can tell that he's looking up, describing his own place, because he's down here like this, talking about Roger's cool place at the end of the crazy shit that he got put in. He says that he got put in jail for 3 years. You don't go to jail for that. You go to prison. You know what I mean? Like, nobody gets arrested on those charges and goes to jail. You go to prison, like state, like to the feds. You don't just go to county jail for having, 3 photos of a 5-year-old. And he started to describe the photos. And I said, wait a minute. Like, he was, yeah. And I was like, Mark. And he's like, what? I said, I don't need to hear the details of the photos, bro. I don't want to hear. And he's like, okay. So he goes over here. As he's describing this guy's house, he goes from talking it like this, and I can tell that he's looked up and he goes, he had this beautiful townhouse with these big vaulted ceilings. And like these ceilings in my house or in my place are kind of vaulted. And you could hear his voice echo off the high ceilings. Like he was literally using things in his environment to weave the story together of truth with lies or whatever was going on. So that fades away this way. He's telling me what he's doing, but putting it under the guise of, once again, some impossible scenario. So he goes, just so you know, Jonny, I do watch porn. He goes, but no weird gay or bondage stuff. Oh, I haven't asked him anything about this, mind you. This is
why
all
is he bringing that up? Yes.
Like, bro, weird. Like, so you watch gay and bondage. Like everything you're saying, there's, you guys know what I mean. It's like you guys have kids and have met people. You're like, Mommy, I didn't break the vase. Nobody, we're eating dinner. Nobody mentioned a broken vase. Like it was obviously you.
Just outed yourself. Yes, he just outed himself.
During this next portion, all the time he was saying, I don't want you to be upset with me, Jonny. I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't want you to be mad at me, Jonny. But I do watch. And I go, okay, cool. I said, there's no problem. I mean, I don't believe this. I said, whatever, basically. Like for a lot of people, it's not a problem, even though I know better. Just like keep talking, bro. I said, you got to watch out watching.
Yeah.
He's like, well, why? And you're going to come across something that you're not supposed to see. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, do you know how much CP is on public websites? And he's like, no, it's not. No, there's not. That's only on the dark web. It's only on the dark web. He goes, what do you know about the dark web? I'm like, well, let's back up.
Wow. Oh,
yeah, he's trying, like Lily, you guys are saying, he's trying to see. And now it's almost like he's so nutty that it's like that. He goes, well, I do watch porn and that. He goes, but what I'm worried about is he was like, do you think that it's possible that I'm looking at my computer and then that someone would send me a virus that would download child to my computer?
Oh my God.
It was more convoluted than that, like more details. We painted this impossible scenario that like any first 48 investigator or like in the interrogation room with the cameras in the corner that would have been like, get the handcuffs, boys. We got them. Like immediately, like painting this ridiculous scenario where he's clicked on something and somebody that hates him or has a vendetta against him, almost like that Roger story, would put CP on his computer. And I like laughed out loud. And he's like, what's so funny? I'm like, it doesn't matter if you use an Onion or a Tor browser or anything to hide your internet activity. There is no such thing. That's a joke. Like, this is an aside that I didn't tell him, but that's just the thing. You'll see all these things online. Oh, protect your privacy. Download this app. That's the government, stupid. What are you talking about? This fallacy that me, you, and Lily and Culty get together and make this cool VPN thing that only we did and put up there to help people stay private online. That doesn't happen. It's all top down. So I go, do you know how stupid it would be for somebody for no reason to give up their IP address and have CP on their computer and then craft a malware virus just to give it to a stranger for fun when all that's going to do is have the FBI at their door within a day?
Yeah.
And he's like, I paint this impossible scenario for exactly what it is, impossible. And then I realized, which I realized like 5 minutes earlier, was that he's talking about himself. So now, and part of my personality is like, if somebody like him or like somebody like in real life, if they do or say certain things, and they draw blood, if you will, as far as like, okay, now I know that you're a sicko. If they draw blood, like I become, the wrong word to use here because of what we're talking about is predator, but I become like a great white shark. Like now I sniff it and now I'm on the trail. So now I'm like, all right, now I'm going to turn it up. So I start to paint this scenario that, let's say it was true, Mark. I was like, you better be careful, bro. And he's like, you know what? I said, man, if there's anything on your computer, man, I said, they're going to be at your door anytime, bro. And this guy started to freak out. Like he slowly, At one point, I know he was crying. I know it. He started to get manic and hyped up. He was like, well, Jonny, he's like, that really worries me. He goes, what do you think I should do? He's like, do you think I'm safe? Do you think I'm safe? Do you think I'm safe, Jonny? Do you think I'm safe? I'm like, I don't know, man. I said, and at this point, like, I'm like a dick now. Like now it's like that break, like in the interrogation things where I haven't offered him the can of Coke anymore and the cigarette, all that's gone now. Now we're coming back my way, and I'm like,
because
well,
you got him.
Yeah,
That's
you
why.
got him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like, well, if you don't know, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you have absolutely nothing to worry about at all. I said hundreds of millions of people in this country watch porn, and there's porn on their computer, but it's not the disturbing stuff. I said, so they have nothing to worry about. I said, so you don't watch that stuff, right? Oh, well, no. I'm just saying that. What if somebody, same scenario? Well, do you think that they're going to be here? Do you think I'm okay? What do you think I should do? I said, I don't think you should do anything because you have nothing to worry about, right? And then within 5 minutes, he had to get off the phone. But now it's been 3 hours. Like this conversation was from 9 to 12 o'clock, 9 till midnight. And I got off the phone and I'm like sitting there and I'm going, man, like basically this guy is very fortunate that I don't have the means right now to just like, basically if I was like at Learjet status, I would have already called up the pilot and been like, dude, I need you on the tarmac. Call me. I'll be there in 2 hours, bro. And gotten this dude.
You would have gotten the evidence. You would have gotten the evidence that they could get a conviction.
Yeah.
And what I know is that when I got off that phone, like I just imagined him like throwing away his computer or like erasing everything or whatever because I had him all hemmed up. But I never talked to him after that because for obvious reasons. So
did he ever try to contact you again?
Oh, a ton. And
okay.
I didn't block him. And I didn't block him at all. Like, yeah, he must have called me like 20 times, literally. And I didn't block him because now I can waste his time. I never answered it. But now, even though it's 20 calls, that's 3 minutes per call. I wasted an hour of this freak's time. That's another hour that he's away from whatever it is.
Right.
That's how I viewed it. I'm just going to waste some of his time. And so I'm like, okay, well, I've obviously got to end all this caseload bullshit with Joe and Fran. So that's all cut off now. And in between that, I had just a regular conversation with the guy in Keller that I talked to in ExJW, who's totally cool, has nothing to do with any of this weird shit at all. It's actually that guy, Shack composer, JP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally freaking rad dude. Seems like a solid guy. Definitely gives me just, nothing but a good gut instinct. And
so did you contact Joe and Fran? Yeah. Did you tell?
And I don't contact them immediately. Basically, because I was kind of trying to decide like how I was going to word it. So it took a couple of days. But on Monday, the very next day, JP calls me. I don't remember who mentioned it first, but like somebody, either me or him, mentioned talking to somebody weird. And I think it was him. I said, "You're not talking about Mark, are you?" He's like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "That guy is a weirdo, bro." He had spoken to him as well. And that he had immediately only called, that he only spoken to him for one time, and that he was talking about some weird stuff, but not as weird as what he was talking to me about. And I was like, oh yeah, no, unless I'm mistaken, that guy's totally a pedophile. And so we talk about it, and I'm like, well, I'm going to be telling Joe and Fran that I'm done with the new phone calls, with any new phone calls. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to have to call him up and tell him the same, because he had just talked to him like a week before that.
And wait, it sounds like they were doing the same thing to JP that they were doing to you. Sending people his way, right? Okay.
Yeah, obviously, they're giving this guy, this weirdo's name to multiple people in the community.
Right.
They're hooking this guy up with multiple people.
I wonder who he's talking to now. See, I hope this video gets circulated. And if there's anybody that's watching this, if you can relate to what Jonny and JP are both dealing with this person, you guys got to speak up. Let us know in the comments.
Who else is in this database? Are there any other weirdos like this that are being passed around
to the community?
So I have a question, Jonny. You said that when the guy first called you and you hadn't called him back yet, did I get that you said you got a call from Joe and said, have you talked to Mark yet?
Yeah.
Did I get that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
I want
everybody to note that point.
Yeah, it was this like.
Okay, so
you
if
know,
Joe hasn't had any conversations with this guy, but he's only ever sent them to people, how many people have given him feedback that this guy is a serious problem? Okay.
Right. But he also has to have talked to Joe, because in order for them to have his information, Mark had to have talked to Joe and Fran at some point.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Oh no, 100%. And that's actually the reason why I didn't call them right away, is because what we know now, or what we're theorizing now about them, I wasn't there yet because it wasn't there yet. So the extra day was me looking out for them. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to call up Joe, ask him to go outside and tell him that there's a pedo in the woodpile. Like, so I that's what it was. I sent them a text. I said, I didn't say Joe and Fran. I said, hey Joe, I need to talk with you when you get a chance. It's important. And then they hit me up and said, yeah, later on tonight, whatever time it was, 5 or whatever, call us up. So I just called them up and I told them what I didn't tell them nearly as much as I told you guys, but just that he was saying a lot of disturbing things about underage girls. And just like we know, no matter what the information is, whether it's on video or in this case on a phone call, that whatever information comes across their desk, no matter how crazy it is, it's always kind of viewed with the same blasé attitude. Oh yes, we've heard before, and we've taken into consideration, and this and the other thing. So I had said my piece, but what I'm theorizing now about them wasn't in play then. That's really important. I was still on this side of the fence.
You still were given the benefit of the doubt, but in hindsight, you're looking back and you're thinking most normal people would have reacted quite differently.
What are you talking about?
They would have been
You
shocked.
said what?
They
would have been shocked and oh my gosh.
Wait a minute. Let me turn this TV down. What did he say?
Sorry. Yes. Like we didn't know. We had no idea. Yes.
None of that. It was like I was telling them that we couldn't make it to dinner that Sunday or something. Oh, that's no big deal. We'll get together some other time.
Like some NPCs. They were like NPCs. Okay.
Right. So, I just kind of went, but maybe, once again, benefit of the doubt, because I can handle all kinds of information with a straight face, whatever on that. But just, okay, cool. But I've said my piece. They know that there's something rotten in the woodpile. They've been told by other people out of their own mouth. Done. So that literally is the end of the Mark Taft situation. But
is it? Because now that you've told your story, like I said, if anyone's watching this video, if you've been passed on this guy and this guy's being passed around, someone needs to speak up, because that means
anyone like him,
because that means that Joe and Fran are still letting this happen.
Yeah,
that's important.
They never mentioned. I want to bring something up here. They never mentioned that they were going to remove him from their database, right? Or not send him to anyone else.
We're taking it into consideration, or some legally.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Right.
We'll take it into consideration.
We've been informed by other people and stuff like that. And it's like, I gotta watch my mouth. I'm such a sailor mouth. It's like, it's like, if you've already been told that why did you pass him to me?
Exactly. That is the point.
Masters here. This all didn't happen within the space of 20 minutes, where like you heard from Mark, you got his story, you passed him on to me, and then after I talked to him, then you heard a bunch of shit. Either way, you guys are full of shit.
In that interview with Wendi, he takes a very strong stance against predators and pedophiles. He goes into this like animated how outraged he is, and how like Watchtower did this.
He does that every time.
He said
every interview.
Every interview, he brings it up. He brought it up the other night. Every time he's on the screen, he brings up snare and racket of Watchtower. He loves that term. And then he brings up
pedophiles. Say that word too many times, though.
Okay, but I'm just saying, he constantly says it. Oh, like he's so outraged. And here he is doing this to Jonny. JP obviously had interactions with this guy. So these are two people that we know of that Joe and Fran knew and still are sending them around. And who knows who
And
else?
acting very blasé about it, not having a reaction like, oh my God, I am so sorry. Or even
Yeah.
having a conscience that says, okay, so I'm a licensed trained therapist. Maybe I shouldn't have people in the ExJW community who are not licensed trained therapists who could report somebody like that. It's
Right.
like, it's total irresponsibility. Total
But you see
irresponsibility.
but you guys can see what I'm saying about the timeline thing.
Yeah.
About
Yeah.
them contacting him. I'm over here. Before I talked to him, somebody else did. And yet, when I talked to them here, they already knew over here.
Right.
Yeah.
They already knew.
Like, it's not like in between JP and me that all happened and went this way. It's like
Okay,
they already knew something here-ish and still brought him over here. It's
So
like,
in
well,
that
you
interview, they say that that Joe looked on the internet, and he like discovered that they were covering for pedophiles, and that was when they decided to exit.
right.
So it's like he's all like gonna trash his life because Watchtower is covering pedophile, but yet their stance is, well, whatever.
Well, it happens,
Oops.
But
That was
that's where
them. This is
This persona thing has come up with Ruby. It's come up with multiple people in the community. It's almost like Joe also he's trying to uphold a persona.
yes,
Mhm.
correct.
That's not real. That's all I
And
wanted to
there's
say.
3 different ones that I can count. There's the one that we commonly see on the live stream stuff, which is this, his face is always down. Everything is your friend, everything
and
is
Carly
so fucking
time.
negative. It's like they feed off of it. Then you go to the Wendi Renay thing. Looked like you had a facelift, just all up here. I mean, it's a markedly different. And then in the middle is this flim-flammy, please everyone kind of a persona.
True,
So,
but I do want to say something about that. It's been 2 years since the Wendi from now, so
Oh,
there
yeah.
is age. We were
Okay.
talking
There's
about
a
that recently.
difference.
There's something
Well,
definitely going on.
the other person, in between ending it with Mark Taft, that crazy shit, and then taking a couple of days to be like, how am I going to word this to them, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then I talked to this other person. He said, this person told me, well, that's nothing, because he starts telling me about this guy named Jason Breshears. You've seen his videos on Joe and Fran's thing. He's the guy with the YouTube channel Archaics, right?
Yeah.
So I write down his name and I'm looking it up on the internet as I'm talking to this person on speakerphone. And I'm hipping myself to who this guy is. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. And because the only reason why I know about the guy is because Joe and Fran were showing his videos. They even sent me a text message. Oh, tonight we're going to be featuring a video from this Archaics channel. So I tune in that night and see the thing, and I don't realize that's who it is. I just know the Archaics channel. And then, you cut to this person telling me, okay, well, this guy, Jason Breshears, I'm like, yeah, he's got this channel. Okay, yeah. I look it up. This guy's making like 7 G's a month on YouTube with this YouTube channel, like paid like crazy. He's like, well, this person's like, this Jason Breshears guy. I'm like, yeah. He was like, well, this guy did 27 years in prison.
Yes.
And I'm like, what for? And he's like, let's just say something not so nice. He's like, look it up. I'm like, all right, cool. So it doesn't take any kind of research. It's not like you have to even go deep. You just type in the name. And this was apparently a huge deal that this guy did 27 years in prison. He was just released. It doesn't matter how long ago, not 20 years ago, but a few. That this guy this Archaics channel guy, no theory here, tried and convicted with evidence in a court of law. I looked at all the damn PDFs, probably too much. That this Jason dude in 1992 or 1997, I think 97. Him and his buddy, they were 19 or 20, and they didn't have permission to do what they were doing to a gal that was years younger than 19.
They brutally assaulted this person.
It was bad. It was multiple times during an evening. Like it started, and then somebody's wife, like caught it kind of happening or something, and they convinced that wife that nothing was going on outside or whatever was going on. That wife went to bed, and then they took very bad
inappropriate behavior.
They were assaulting her with a pistol, among other things. And I don't know about the other dude, but this Jason Breshears guy did 27 years. And when you look into him even more, he not only did that, but while he was in prison, he was writing articles to news publications trying to get pornography back into the prisons. He was quite famous there for all the wrong reasons for a hot minute. That the guy was just doing messed up stuff in prison. And so, well, that's what it was, is that I didn't hang up the phone with this person because right before I did was the cliffhanger. He was like, well, this person that told me this about Jason, he's like, well, I've had my eye on those two, on JNF. And I'm like,
Fran?
why? Yeah. I'm like, why? He's like, let's just say I'm watching from the sidelines. He's like, because they are fully aware of Jason Breshears, hipped me to the Archaics channel. And I said, what do you mean? They know about this? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, and this person's like, and do you know what their response was? And I'm like, what? That he's not like that anymore.
Right.
This is
where you come in.
I was done.
This
I
is
was
where
done.
Caldy comes in because she dealt with this before you came into the picture, Jonny. Tell your side.
This is really, really disturbing to me because I brought this to their attention too about Jason Breshears because
before them showing their video, like before 2 months ago.
This was probably like a year ago.
Like 2 months ago was when they hit me up about.
Let's emphasize that she
probably
brought this
around a year ago.
About a year ago.
Around there.
Right. So they know that he's a violent gang rapist.
Joe and Fran, I found out, went to see this guy. They went to visit him and see him give some presentation about his bullshit that he's selling.
Johnny's down
here.
Yes,
they went to meet him. Okay. And you are so right when they say that they are up this guy's ass, because I was a moderator on their channel, and they would constantly bring this guy up all the time. And they sent me his video. Oh yeah, you should check out Jason Breshears Archaics, and they were constantly bringing him up on their live streams on Joe and Fran's show and on Fixing My Faith, right? So I'm a moderator there.
Money into his pocket, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Literally
they were trying to get
money, $7,000 a month doing his channel.
Yes.
You know what I'm do with $7,000 a month?
So they kept on telling everyone about this Archaics guy, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen this guy. Something's off about this guy. I just, my gut, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so I looked him up, and I found all the information that you just said, that he brutally assaulted this young girl.
Texas, PDF.
Yes.
I mean, he is
famous.
Yes,
we'll put the links. This is what I mean when I said
we got
before.
the receipts. We got everything. We'll put it in the description.
So I said, listen, I was complaining actually to Alora, who's our friend, and I was like, I can't promote this guy anymore because he's this guy. He went to prison. He brutally assaulted this girl. So I'm telling, and she said, do you tell Joe and Fran? And I'm like, well, I'm going to, but I wanted to talk to a girlfriend first. So I contact Joe and Fran and I tell them exactly all about this, thinking that they didn't know anything.
Did you call them on the phone? Okay.
I can't remember if I texted them or if I called them.
Okay.
Honestly, but either way, I told them, I'm like, listen, this guy, Jason Breshears, he went to prison, and you know why he was in prison? Because he brutally assaulted a young girl. And
they kidnapped her and brought her to another place
in a van.
It wasn't.
And what was Joe and Fran's response to that? To you?
So they were like, I was expecting them to be like, oh, wow, whatever. No, they already knew. And they said, yeah, well, he's done his time. He's paid his dues.
See, I knew that guy. I knew that person wasn't lying to me.
I was shocked. Okay. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, he paid his dues, but it doesn't take away what this man did. And we don't know who this guy is. I could not promote these people anymore. This guy on this guy on their show. And I thought that they would just let it go. But even since then, they have still tried to sneak in archaics again.
And this is what drives me crazy about Joe, is that on one side of his mouth, he's saying, this is evil. Watchtower does this. Watchtower promotes these people. Watchtower allows them in the thing. And then he is over here saying,
promoting and allowing.
Yes, and saying, "Oh, they've done their dues." Can you, or they've, gone to jail?
Yeah,
can you imagine if Watchtower said that? Watchtower says, "Oh, these guys, these elders, they've paid their dues, and you're going to be okay with it." No, he'd be like, "That's wrong. How is one thing wrong, and this is just perfectly fine when it's the same exact thing?"
And that's where it gets messed up for me. Where it gets messed up is. What is the benefit for you knowing these gruesome details and still continuing?
Yes.
Why? And that's why I had to cut it off. And that's why you guys haven't seen me around. Yeah. And once I'm at a certain point, I have to disengage, because if I don't disengage, the first thing is I don't live anywhere near Joe and Fran. Because if I'm in front of somebody that's going to defend something like that, it's not going to go well.
Let's fast forward to, so they're building this database, and or they already have it. They're wanting people to talk about their child assaults. It's like something's not right about this. Something's creepy about this. Something is just not feeling good.
Yeah, and they work with Rick Farron, and they all work together. And remember, they're doing this convention where we're all alive in 2025. It's like the most triggering thing I would think for a ex-Jehovah Witness would be to go to ex-Jehovah Witness convention, where you're going to be in front of a bunch of people. And I think you guys have brought this up about, how do you know Watchtower doesn't have people going there?
It's 100% guaranteed. It's 100% guaranteed. 4K on video, live stream, right to the elders.
Why would they want people to publicly talk about this?
Yes,
to come and share your brutalized pain and stuff.
And I still have the email from Rick Farron, where it's like the introductory email, like when I signed up to go to the thing, when I was at the start of this, like all excited, it's like meet people and like, here's your ticket number. And then this big long form email that he sends out. Obviously it's like a boilerplate, like he typed it once and then sends out to everybody, that it was going to be about this and this guest speaker. And then there's a big paragraph in there, two small paragraphs, two nice sized paragraphs, where it's like an extra time I can see everything. Extra time will be spent for people who want to share stories of, not depraved, but of severe sexual and other abuses.
I've heard him say that on the show.
Like, at a certain point, it's weird.
Who wants to hear that stuff? What are you guys promoting? Something is seriously up.
This is what they're looking forward to hearing at this convention.
And wherever Bethel headquarters is these days, I bet you that they will be watching every single day live. No doubt about it. There's going to be at least 300 people there. I'm almost really wanting to go just to freaking see it. Just to see it.
I get the Watchtower concerns, like PMOs and stuff, they should be concerned. But what's more disturbing still by far is them having that little program saying, we want people with severe CSA or abuse stories to come up here and tell your story. I think that's sick. I'm sorry.
Can we backtrack just for a minute back to Joe and Fran? Joe and Fran started to promote this other person who I have known exactly who this person is. His name is Dr. Ammon Hillman, who is a Satanist, and he has his own channel called Lady Babylon. Okay, this guy is into some really sick, disturbing,
twisted
information, and talks about the most disturbing things having to do with children. And they tried to promote this guy, and I again approached them and I showed them this really sick, disturbing video. I sent it right to them. I said, you don't understand what this guy is into. He is into all kinds of sick, disgusting stuff. And I sent them a video of this guy talking to a chemist, and this video is online to this day about it's just too disturbing to even say. Okay, so this video, if anybody does watch it, because it will be in the links, prepare yourself, because it is beyond. And there's a warning at the beginning of this video, because the guy who he was interviewing with was so disturbed by the things that this guy was saying, that this Ammon Hillman was saying. Okay, so I told Joe and Fran, I'm like, listen, this guy's bad news. He's horrible. I sent them this disgusting video. I said, prepare yourself. And do you know what their reply was after they watched the video? They replied to me back. I said, did you watch that video that I sent you? What are your thoughts about this? And they basically told me, well, Watchtower used to say that we couldn't watch certain things. We can learn from everyone. We can learn something from everyone.
Can we learn
I
from
was like,
pedophiles?
what?
Really?
No.
What is he talking about?
I was like shocked.
So it's like, hopefully people will watch this video that watched and have participated in their show. And if they have anything remotely familiar, maybe they'll go, maybe something else is going on here, because you didn't know Jonny and Jonny didn't know you, but you guys had a similar experience. And this other unnamed person who, whatever their experience was, and this other guy, you said this JP, it's like, this is not at all like the people I saw in the interview. The people I saw in the interview were very protective of the concept of how dare Watchtower even like allow this kind of behavior and da 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 da. It's like, whoa. So Jonny's deducement of the possibilities plays into where I come into this, and that is, I have felt for years, my little bit of interaction with the ExJW community 10 years ago, okay, or 2017, 2018, the first time I ever saw that there was even a thing called a community. Right away, within a very short time, I identified a guy, like Jonny did, that was scamming witnesses, and I brought it to someone who, after watching enough videos, I considered people like the older couple, Mike and Kim, and I watched enough to know that they were very honorable and protective of people's identity, the way they were doing everything. So I felt safe enough to send an email. And I eventually got an email back, and that led to a phone call. And I asked them about this scenario that I saw unfolding. And they right away said, this is not right. Look, we'll do a video on it and we're going to warn the community about what this person is doing, because it wasn't just me, another person in the chat, and we're talking, or like this is way not good that was happening, the scamming that we knew scamming was happening. And then, so that was many years ago. And then there were other people. There was other people that I saw that were actually outing or calling out if they figured out that somebody was a pedophile, that he was taking pictures of the people on the video. And so when I come back into the scene last summer, okay, and it was like by accident, okay, so I'm my YouTube feeds, and then I hear this guy's voice, and it sounds familiar, and he was talking and it was interesting. I was like, oh yeah, I think I heard this guy do a couple of videos about some stuff. And so I was interested. And so enough to be able to stick my feet back in the X community again. And it's like whenever shortly thereafter, and I met Jonny, and Jonny said this person, Joe and Fran, I'm like scratching my head and I'm thinking, yeah, something about them, and then I felt repelled by them enough that I didn't even want to subscribe to their channel. And so when I kept hearing people say, oh, you got to watch Joe and Fran, or this was streaming on Joe and Fran's, I'm like, why is everybody in love with Joe and Fran?
They're in the spell, like a Joe and Fran spell. That's what it is. And it's also why we're doing these videos, because we feel like the ExJWs get caught up in the same patterns that they fell into as JWs. Like, for instance, like Johnny's took a step back. I'm so glad he's coming forward and telling this, because now that he's told his story, and Culty, you're sharing what you experienced with Joe and Fran, I want people to also, if they've experienced something and no one's saying anything because no one wants to rock the boat because of how we were raised, and we were told by Watchtower, these are our brothers and sisters, don't rock the boat. No, I want to rock the boat so hard. I want everyone to come and tell your story. We are here to listen, because we are doing this so people are aware. If no one speaks up, nobody will know.
Well, it's like, and what happened to you girls, which, okay, so when I discovered the ExJW site, it was a Ruby Quinn channel, and there was a guy named Jimmy Bell talking, okay? And so what I have come to learn that you girls experienced, and I've watched your two videos that talk about details and everything, not on the level that you did, because I didn't try and become friends with this person, but I also experienced negativity thrown at me in a way that, like Jonny, I had to take a step back, because I was like shunned by her in a way that was really weird. I'm like, why is she treating me this way? I'm just this person trying to ask some questions. And it was like, not at all. I mean, and she would encourage me to go into this thing called Discord. And right away, I didn't like the name Discord. And
You're
I also
about Ruby, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking Ruby. Okay.
Yeah.
Ruby.
And I didn't feel like it was a good place to go, because I looked at the terms and conditions, and basically in order to join, I had to agree to let them access my phone contacts and all kinds of crap. And I wasn't there. And so it's like the concept of having a YouTuber with a channel in the X community somehow or another, like, can fool people into thinking you can trust somebody. Because you girls were gaslit. You really did think that this was a genuine person trying to be your friend. And then she outed herself on Joe and Fran's show, basically saying, I'm nobody's friend. I don't want friends. They're a waste of time. I don't like friends. Nobody, blah, blah, blah.
At that point, why is anybody participating in it after that? if she doesn't want to be anybody's friend? That's what I don't get.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Or is like
Well-
all balls or ovaries or wherewithal been just totally obliviated from society? Because like,
Well, it's like I said on the podcast. Why are you even out there then? You're trying to encourage people to come into your Discord. You're out here on the YouTube pretending to like people, I guess, inviting them into come on your show. You want the
ExJW
clicks?
friends,
You
right?
want the
Isn't that
clicks
the
and the
name?
views. Yeah, and
The
the
political-
SJW friends is
The
the
political
Discord.
corner.
Their
Mhm.
Discord.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
if you don't want to
you
be
want them
anybody's
for the clicks
friend,
and the
but you want
views.
everybody around, it means that you want to use them.
Yes,
That's
for
right.
That's the only other option avaavailable.
She
That's
wants
right.
your insurance. She wants to sell insurance now to you.
Now she's your only insurance.
She shot herself in the foot, you guys, because she went on
Yeah.
Joe and Fran, said she doesn't like people, doesn't have anything to do with friends, and then she
Mutuals.
turned mutuals.
You're a mutual.
You're only a mutual to her. She could
Yeah.
care less. You're a person on the street, and then she went around and said, "I got a job and I can sell insurance to you. Who's buying?" That's what she's doing.
It's also predators watching all of this.
Right.
That's my main thing, because before I knew what I know now, my first instinct was, to be like, well, if I can find out where Mark Taft is, and he's a total freak in my opinion, then Joe and Fran could be in danger. Like people showing up to their door, when I was over here on this side of the fence. And that's where I started to get like, you're either stupid or something else is going on. Like, I know that the WT is watching, not it's not like they're watching us, but that they keep tabs on all of this shit.
Oh yeah.
There's
I do.
how we were raised in it before we realized what was going on, like we do now. We would say that was crazy. Obviously, everybody was good and everything, but now the them keeping tabs and hiding CSA and all the other shit that I don't know about from the past 30 years, and of course for the past 150 years, that I can see it right now. That there's a team. It's not like there's not video editors for Watchtower, social media managers. As we know, it's way more of a business than we ever thought it was growing up.
Well,
So
look at
there's no
Operation
doubt-
Spotlight. They got on the wind of that because the guy from Spain went on the news or something. So, Watchtower is obviously watching the news in Spain, or there's somehow it got back to them. So they've got eyes everywhere.
They're watching our videos. They literally have people watching our videos.
Yeah. There's a team. I mean, you can see it in your mind's eye. Like it's a no-brainer.
Get it? Watchtower.
Right.
They're watching from the tower.
The Watchtower has underground server farm to hold everything. Giant mainframe computers, millions of dollars worth. This shit ain't cheap.
Just like any other cult, right? They all do.
Right.
Any
Just like Scientology keeps, just like Scientology will keep files, although they're way more whatever. They're on some other shit.
And probably LDS too, all of them.
They have detailed files on all of these people. They know who Ruby Quinn is. They know who Joe and Fran Guerino is, where they live.
Right.
I mean, we can all spend $20 to run a background check on somebody, or work does that to employees. Imagine what this multi-billion-dollar organization. I mean, there is literally a file right now named whatever, and inside of that is named New York, Guerino, this, okay,
right.
People watching, usernames, their channels. Yeah,
right, and then we have Joe and Fran out here collecting people's information and putting it in their database, which is not secure, which Watchtower or whoever could just bust right into also.
And also encouraging people to come on and show their faces. And
good point.
Always encouraging to show the faces.
Whenever people, so in terms of, let's just talk about the CSA and Watchtower and the cases and stuff. This is like the biggest pain in their ass, the CSA. Okay. And because the X communities and people are not letting it go, they're having to work harder to try and make it so the cases fail.
Yeah,
right?
finding new ways to do that. Yes.
And not just individual cases. I mean, like governments saying, oh, well, we're not going to support you anymore as a whatever tax status or whatever thing it is that they do because you do this to your people. It's like they're needing to nullify people's stories, nullify meaning invalidate, like poke holes.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Sabotage.
The people who are out there promoting this class action lawsuit, we all know who we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yes.
and the thing is because, okay, I don't personally know any of the people on the screen. Y'all don't personally know me. We feel like we know each other, but you know, I could be a great actress, right?
I knew
Jonny,
it. That's it.
yeah, you know, it's like
Moving. We got them, boys. We got them, boys. Moving.
yeah, exactly. Even whenever people know,
Hold on. I need to make a quick phone call.
I don't really like the Little Mermaid. If this is all fake.
right? So you understand the concept,
Green screen. I knew it.
and
All the
it's
world
like,
is a stage. It was right there the whole entire time.
That's right. Exactly.
Gotcha.
there you go. She learned all this from watching Mission Impossible 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. So she
Featuring the Scientologist, Tom Cruise. It's
Right.
all
Right.
it's all right
And
there.
and she'll be ripping her mask off,
Now,
and she'll be Stephen
I'm
Lev.
grabbing the bottom of my face. I was just fixing to say my show's gonna go. Whoa! You know.
Okay, so the point is, first off, I am so sorry you experienced that as a new person, Jonny, because like, thank God I didn't experience anything on that level, but that really rocks you emotionally. It does. Because you think,
Well, it might rock some people emotionally. For me, it's a bit different.
It's a letdown. It's a letdown. It is
right. It's completely the I'm not mad or angry. I'm disappointed.
right.
But
Thank you.
I already I did walk into this going, okay, I know numbers. I'm going to meet a bunch of people. And even if, I think I said something to myself on the effect of like, even if only one hand's worth of people stick out of that whole group, not obviously not thinking that people were going to be like defending, violent rapists and potential pedophile shit, but
that's a whole nother level.
Whatever. Plus, I know that and I won't speak for anybody else, but that a lot of XJWs, or in this case at least me, are a little bit, wah about certain things. So it's not like I knew that. I also knew that I wasn't going to be getting dealt into a full deck or anything of a poker game. There's going to be some cards missing there, but I didn't know there was going to be extra ones
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
So
Great analogy, because
is that it happened, blah blah blah, and now I can just be like done, and the cool people like you and like Monica, and like I'm cool talking with this other guy. Awesome.
Right.
All meant to be, all part of the thing or whatever. Because I don't have time to get angry unless something has changed in between Joe and Fran's show until now. Like, I can't be around it because I'll get on there and be like, hey, not to be that motherfucker, but I need to say something real quick, and I'll lay this whole thing out. But
you're literally describing being called. Yes, we did that. We blew it up.
Oh
right.
yeah,
To where
it's like you decide what's worth it or not, and it's
Right.
like I did the same thing with me not going on Ruby's channel anymore because
I just won't. I won't put money in their pocket. That's what they're doing.
Right. We don't want to support it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't take.
How can I? She doesn't want to be my friend anyway, so okay, no problem. Yeah. I don't get emotional about almost anything anymore. What I get is it's a mental emotion. It's almost akin to the blood and water with the shark. It's my brain starts to sharpen towards that person. I'm going to analyze them like a zoo exhibit and just kind of go and peel it back and go, okay, so you said you don't want to be anybody's friend, but I see you now. Put it under a microscope and then go, okay, cool, and then crumple it up and throw it away. And like I told you the other day, I don't think about any of this until it gets brought up again. So you guys are the ones that have had way more to deal with and a way bigger letdown.
You decide like, where is your energy going to go? And that's my point. It's like, if a person is fake and fake news and has no desire to learn anything from another person other than, who they're deemed as the only person they're going to hear any information from, well, then so be it.
This is where we're putting our energy, because we are all about, like, this is not even necessarily about us, but it's about the people out there. Have you had that same experience that we're talking about? And we want to know, like, we want to know, and we want to warn people. That's where we're putting our energy.
And pay it forward. So I've had in my life where
Absolutely.
people have spoke up to me and made me aware of something, and I'm like, thank you. You just saved me some time. So for me, it's also, I believe in the universe and the pay it forward too. Like, I'm going to pay it forward to people. And I'm not going to be complicit in something. If I know something's going on, I don't have to sit there and dwell on it and be toxic about it and constantly think about it all the time. But that's also why I like to do these podcasts, because I feel like I'm able to get it out there, get it off my chest, and then move on.
Every single person, unless I'm just by myself here, and there's no way that's logically possible, is they have to eventually face the motive behind something. As far as, once again, like, why would a certain person on the one channel not want to be anybody's friend, but still want everybody around to use them? It'd be a lot better for these people to be my grandparents and brothers and aunts and uncles, for lack of a better word, and everybody be kumbaya. But at a certain point, I just go, okay, the two people at large have got 140 years between them. And that whole entire freaking time, you never faced the mirror and went X, Y, and Z about my actions or any other thing. Now I'm at a point to where you, of course, I'm being facetious here, but you need to prove to me that, one time is a coincidence.
Yep.
Right.
Maybe.
Twice. Maybe. Twice might be your fault. Third time is enemy action. These are the rules. But like at this point, these people have got to prove to me, if it came to it, that it's not enemy action, because there either is not a lot of thinking going on, or it's enemy action.
It's created a different life for them. They had Watchtower life. Now they have X Watchtower life. But the concept of the angles of it are unnerving to people who have worked really hard to have some sort of life and privacy outside of how all our lives were crashed. Okay. And so they're gathering people together, and this premise is a beautiful thing. And the concept to be able to create new families where all of our families are gone. I mean, golly, I would love to be bombed. I would love to have like all these new and family. That sounds all lovely. But is my family that I've just created looking out for my back and protecting me? Because that's what family or close friends do. Is they protect you. They look out for you. They make sure that your niece or your nephew doesn't get victimized by this other person. If they know of that other person, they speak out and they speak up and they say, okay, friends, brothers and sisters, we have here this scenario, and, everybody has a right to be able to be and choose their life, who they are, blah, 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 the disclaimer. But it's come to our attention But no, that's not the attitude. It's let's brush it back. She brought two things to their attention, and that wasn't enough. And so then this guy here, he brings two things to their attention. And these are two people who have had the same reaction. And then a third person and a fourth person have said the same reaction. So now how many other people have got the same reaction? So at what point do the parties responsible for creating this platform and the love bombing and the scenario, at what point do they step in and take a responsibility and say, you know, that's not really a good thing that I did?
Right.
And then do something about it. Take some action, right? And let people know. Warn people. Warn other people. Hey, we made a mistake. We got these people in our database, and they've contacted, and they are these kind of people, and they have contacted 2 other people, et cetera, et cetera. Lily, I got to give it to you right now. That was like perfect what you just said.
That was brilliant, Lily, because that's the deal. Is when I entered into this, my main advantage that I felt that I had to help was being out for so long. I was literally had this thing to where I was like, okay, I'm going to be able to encapsulate 27 years way down and help people save time, trauma, all with what worked for me. And then what didn't work for me. I mean, I spent 2 decades in the pit of hell, my own personal hell, not consecutively, but up and down. And then I locked in, and boom, things started. That I realized that you can't force anybody. You can't force the horse to drink. So for 3 months now, and really just for probably a month total. Once again, these shows are only on like twice a week. So let's just say within less than 100 hours of watch time or something, probably way less. Duh, Jonny, these people need to work through their shit like you did. That's fine. You can help out. But, and I don't mean this in a negative way towards anybody, because it's their own journey. All of these people are literally, forget the distraction, wasting time about topics that don't matter. That's literally nothing. Everyone involved is that didn't see shit and get to the surface into a boat and get a life preserver and tow away from this shit. They are in a sea of negativity. You guys are casting spells. You're talking about disgusting stuff. You're always on a negative frequency. I don't see any help. And I've spent 27 years getting out of that pit. I can help you, but it doesn't work. That's why I'd erase my videos. You guys don't deserve to know what I know, because you guys don't want it. You guys got to figure it out for yourself. Until you guys learn the hard lesson, because not only do I look younger, but I can come across in a certain way. And I think that just like seniority mattered in the witnesses in a weird, messed up way on for the opposite of was supposed to be good, that my seniority being out longer than anybody basically, or a guy like Michelle being out for a long time, that without ego, I feel like I have more right to speak. Instead, that was more or less almost like I was like a party trick or something like that. Like, oh, crazy cool deep video, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but I'm trying to tell you guys. And then I realized, that it's only one of 2 options. Either you got to work through it yourself because you have to, or everything that I know and you love it and you're using it to your advantage to do whatever you're doing as far as the people up here or the people that are watching, the masses. You love it because that's what you're comfortable with.
Does anyone have any final thoughts before we close up?
I hope that people watch your video and they just be very cautious and think clearly and don't be so easily lulled or fooled. The little bit that I looked at the whole scenario, it was like, it sort of speaks for itself.
Yeah, and I'm on this like I won't put any more energy to that, and in particular because literally I don't got the time to. And not because I'm busy with doctor's appointments and shuttling, the neighbor's kids to school, but because I already have spent enough time in life and spent it, not wasted it, or else I wouldn't be sitting here right now. Everything is totally meant to be and all interconnected. It's not about lost, at least for me. Oh man, I wasted 12 years of my life. No, it wasn't. It was whatever.
You invested something into your life,
Right.
learning,
That right.
time,
And literally,
experience.
at least I believe that if I stopped to tie my shoe 5 years ago at a different time, we wouldn't be talking right now. I'm a believer in that. If I wouldn't have gotten that phone number on the internet that day and called Fran that day, and Joe and Fran, and then been on that 6 screens thing, or when I met Lily, on that other one, and then, it's all connected. Joe and Fran are either, and I'll tell us to their face, but you're either being purposefully ignorant, and whatever you want to think that means, whatever word you want to put on it, or it's enemy action. There's not. I really want to believe the former, but I've lived and done enough that what people look like, that doesn't matter to me. It didn't matter to me a lot since I was a kid, because everybody thought that my family, they presented this perfect face within the witnesses, and very disturbing things were happening inside of my own home every night. So they're either being very willfully ignorant with 140 years combined, or something is rotten in Denmark. I can't say one way or the other, because my spiritual path dictates that I laugh at either one. It's a great ancient practice. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, you laugh. That's a big way out of things. You just won $1 million. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, your car just broke down on the side of the road. Huh, that's crazy. We'll have to fix that. It's a hard concept, because people are like, I don't want to do that, but it does help. So it's going to come out in the wash either way you cut it, and it's all meant to be. People are going to have to find their own way out. And the whole entire time you're trying to make other people's decision for them, or hold them by the neck and go, drink, damn it. Put the glasses on. See it. Like when you watch the movie They Live, Roddy Piper has to literally beat the living crap out of the other dude and force him to wear the glasses, which you can't really actually do.
I don't know if any of you are aware. I think Culty is, of Mr. M, but he has that mentality. He's someone in the ExJW community that wants to force. Look, you're taking the red pill. You're doing the blue pill. It doesn't work, right? And so what we're trying to do here is just we lay the information out calmly. Here you go. Here's what we're seeing. Take it or leave it. Make your own choice, and we're gonna go on our merry way. Because my final words to this is, be careful. Like I've been saying for a while, be careful. Be careful about who you trust. I feel like Joe is putting spells on people. What I mean by that is, I don't even know if he realizes, like you said, it's either stupid or it's enemy, right? But when every week.
Wait a second. In listening to that video, Joe does understand about that, because I definitely got the not just impression, but enough of what he said in that one video that I watched interview, where he talked about Watchtower's cleverness and how they're connected. He knows what it's all about. He knows what this world is about. He's aware.
And Quinn Wright did a very good video. He did a video where he shows how Watchtower says the same words over and over and over again for programming. And this is what I'm seeing with Joe. Every week that I'm seeing him, first of all, he uses the term that religion is a snare and a racket. And sometimes he turns it into something else. Like he's implying to the audience that we've been ensnared. Like we're trapped. So he's telling us constantly we're ensnared and we're trapped. And then the other thing that I noticed he's been using, especially recently in his past few, is the term that comparing us to pedophiles. He'll say, if you're following religion, you're like a pedophile. He said that numerous times on his shows, telling people that if you're following religion, that you are similar to that. It's like putting these ideas, and every
that
week
we have something in common with them.
I just don't understand why he keeps talking about every week. So my thing is, be careful. It's strange. I don't trust them. I'm sorry. I just don't, especially after knowing what happened with Jonny. Also knowing what happened to Culty. Like, there's something not right here. Red flags, red flags.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we're just here to share the information. And like I said earlier, if anyone has experienced something similar, we would love to hear your story and share
And
your
I have one
story if you
final
want
thought
to.
too.
What are your final thoughts?
My final thought goes out to the audience who is watching not just our show, but anybody that's watching Joe and Fran. I want you to examine, like you got yourself out of Watchtower because you examined Watchtower's words so closely, and you started to see what's not being said, and you started to really hear what they are saying in between the lines. So that's my advice to you, is just pay attention.
Yeah.
Start
And-
paying attention if you're not already.
Mic
Pay
drop.
attention to everything.
Very well
And-
said.
And I would like to say is that if they have presented themselves as they are, as set themselves up as to be ma and pa, your granny, your grandpa, your elder, your person that to trust,
Your replacement family members.
right? Then why is my trusted grandma or grandpa not protecting me? Why are they ignoring when they are being told and they know that there's a
Predators.
fox in the hen house, or there's danger ahead? It's like they don't have my back. Then they're not watching out for me.
And they're also hypocrites because they say bad things they say, oh, it's bad for Watchtower, but they're doing the same thing. It's
It's
hypocrisy.
exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It
All
is.
right.
It is literally the same playbook reversed.
Well, that mic drop. Everyone, I agree. Everything was said wonderfully. Thank you so much, both of you. Well, we lost Lily, but I guess that's a wrap.
Okay.
Yeah. So until next time.
Till next time.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Have a
y'all.
good night.
Take
Yeah, I
care.
appreciate
All
you
right,
too.
you too.
Okay. Take
Talk
care.
soon.
Bye bye.